My fiancé's pre-wedding contract demanded 40% of my income. So, I exposed her at the altar. I'm 28. I had always believed that love and trust were the cornerstones of any meaningful relationship. Growing up, I was taught that honesty and understanding were non-negotiable elements of genuine connection. My parents modeled this in their own marriage, showing me how two people could build a life together through mutual respect and open communication. But life has a way of challenging our most fundamental beliefs, and my story is a testament to how quickly trust can crumble when manipulation takes root. When I first met Chelsea at a mutual friend's housewarming party 3 years ago, there was an instant connection that felt almost magnetic. She had this way of making everyone around her feel seen and heard, but when she focused her attention on me, it felt like the rest of the world faded away. We'd spend hours talking about everything and nothing, sharing our dreams, fears, and hopes for the future. Chelsea was passionate about education and had been teaching elementary school for 5 years. She spoke about her students with such warmth and dedication that I couldn't help but admire her commitment to shaping young minds. The topic of family came up naturally as our relationship progressed. Chelsea was clear about her desire to be a stay-at-home mom once we had children. She painted beautiful pictures of creating a warm, nurturing home environment, being present for every milestone, and dedicating herself fully to raising our future family. Given my stable career in tech and my growing success in the industry, it seemed like a perfectly reasonable arrangement. I could provide the financial stability while she created the home life we both dreamed about. Looking back now, I realized there were subtle signs I chose to ignore. When discussions about money came up, Chelsea would often deflect or change the subject. She never seemed interested in the details of financial planning or budgeting, always saying she trusted me to handle that aspect of our lives. At the time, I interpreted this as confidence in my ability to provide, but now I understand it was part of a larger pattern of avoidance and manipulation. The proposal itself was a moment of pure joy. We moved in together shortly after, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. We began planning our wedding, discussing our future, and building what I thought was a solid foundation for our life together. Chelsea threw herself into wedding preparations with enthusiasm, and I was happy to see her so excited about our future. Her mother, Donna, was heavily involved in the planning, which didn't strike me as unusual at first. Many mothers and daughters bond over wedding preparations, right? But as the wedding drew closer, I began noticing subtle shifts in Chelsea's behavior. She became more withdrawn when it came to discussions about our future finances, and her mother seemed to be increasingly present in our lives. Donna would often make comments about financial security and the importance of protecting assets in marriage. These comments felt odd at the time, but I brushed them off as a mother's natural concern for her daughter's well-being. Then came the night that changed everything, the evening before our wedding. I was in my apartment, going through my vows one last time, when Donna showed up unannounced. She didn't have her usual warm smile or the friendly demeanor I'd grown accustomed to. Instead, she carried herself with a businesslike formality that immediately set me on edge. Without any preamble, she produced a document from her designer handbag and placed it on my coffee table. "This is just a formality," she said, her voice carrying a note of authority that I'd never heard before. "Something to ensure everyone's protected." As I began reading the document, my stomach dropped. It wasn't just any contract. It was a detailed financial agreement that would require me to allocate 40% of my monthly income directly to Chelsea, starting from our wedding day. The contract was comprehensive, including clauses about future raises, bonuses, and even potential inheritance. It was clear this hadn't been thrown together at the last minute. It was a carefully crafted document designed to ensure Chelsea's financial control over our future together. My hands were shaking as I looked up at Donna. "Why are you bringing this to me now?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why wasn't this discussed months ago?" Donna's response was practiced, almost rehearsed. "Chelsea needs security," she explained, as if speaking to a child. Once she becomes a stay-at-home mom, she'll be completely dependent on you. This is just insurance. Surely you understand that. But I did understand. I understood all too well. This wasn't about security. It was about control. The timing wasn't accidental either. They had waited until the night before the wedding, when everything was paid for, when guests had flown in from across the country, when backing out would cause maximum chaos and embarrassment. It was a calculated move designed to leave me with no choice but to comply. I immediately called Chelsea, my heart pounding in my chest. When she arrived at my apartment, her reaction to my distress was perhaps more revealing than the contract itself. Instead of showing surprise or concern about her mother's actions, she seemed annoyed that I was making such a big deal out of it. "It's just a piece of paper," she said dismissively, perching on the edge of my couch. "If you love me, you'll sign it. Don't you trust me?" Those words, using love as leverage, wielding trust as a weapon, they cut deeper than any contract could. In that moment, I saw our relationship for what it truly was: a carefully constructed facade built on manipulation and control. Still, I didn't walk away immediately. The weight of expectation, the sunk cost of our relationship, and my own fear of causing pain kept me frozen in place. I signed the contract that night, feeling a piece of my self-respect die as I did so. The wedding day dawned bright and clear, but I felt anything but bright inside. As I stood in front of the mirror adjusting my tie, I caught sight of my reflection and barely recognized the man staring back at me. The contract sat heavy in my pocket, a physical reminder of my compromise. The ceremony began as planned. Chelsea looked beautiful walking down the aisle, but all I could see was the manipulation behind her smile. When it came time for our vows, something inside me snapped. I couldn't continue this charade. Instead of reciting the words we'd practiced, I pulled out the contract. My hands were steady now, my voice clear as I began reading it aloud to our assembled guests. The gasp that went through the crowd was audible, but I kept reading. They needed to understand what was really happening here. "This isn't a marriage," I announced, looking directly at Chelsea. "This is a business transaction, and I'm not for sale." The chaos that erupted was exactly what I'd feared, but somehow, I felt lighter than I had in months. Chelsea's face contorted with rage and embarrassment. Donna tried to rush forward to stop me, and various family members were shouting different things. But for the first time in months, I felt completely clear about what I needed to do. I tore the contract into pieces, letting them flutter to the ground like confetti. Without another word, I walked back down the aisle and out of the church. I could hear the commotion behind me, but I didn't look back. My car was waiting outside, and I got in and drove away, leaving behind not just a wedding, but a life built on false premises and manipulation. The aftermath was exactly as messy as you might expect. Both families were furious, though for different reasons. Chelsea's family painted me as the villain, spreading stories about how I'd humiliated their daughter and destroyed her special day. My own family, while understanding my reasons, struggled with the public nature of my exit. Friends took sides, social media exploded with various versions of the story, and for a while, it felt like my entire world had been turned upside down. But amidst the chaos, I found clarity. The messages and calls from Chelsea and her mother confirmed everything I needed to know about my decision. There was no remorse, no acknowledgement of their manipulation, only anger at being exposed and thwarted in their plans. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life and understanding how I'd allowed myself to get into that situation in the first place. Therapy helped me recognize the patterns of manipulation I'd overlooked and the red flags I'd ignored. I learned that love shouldn't require legal contracts or financial commitments forced under duress. Real love is built on trust, respect, and honest communication. Now, 3 years later, I can look back on that day with gratitude rather than regret. Yes, it was dramatic. Yes, it caused pain and embarrassment. But it also taught me invaluable lessons about self-worth, boundaries, and the courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. I've learned that true love doesn't try to trap you or control you. It doesn't present ultimatums disguised as security measures. Real love empowers both partners to grow together, to build trust naturally, and to face challenges as a team, not as adversaries. The experience has made me more cautious, but not cynical. I still believe in love and partnership, but now I understand that these must be built on a foundation of genuine trust and mutual respect. I've learned to pay attention to actions rather than words, to trust my instincts when something feels wrong, and to have the courage to walk away when necessary. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to say no to ourselves, to others, and to situations that compromise our integrity. It's not always easy, and it's rarely comfortable, but it's essential for maintaining our self-respect and personal truth. My story isn't just about a wedding that didn't happen or a contract that was torn up. It's about learning to value yourself enough to refuse manipulation, even when it comes disguised as love. It's about having the courage to walk away from something that looks perfect on the surface, but is deeply flawed at its core. Today, I'm sharing this story not to vilify Chelsea or her mother, but to help others recognize the importance of trusting their instincts and standing up for their principles. Love should lift us up, not bind us down. It should bring out the best in us, not reduce us to legal clauses and financial obligations. As I continue on my journey, I carry these lessons with me. They've shaped how I approach relationships, how I value myself, and how I define love. Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most important growth, and sometimes walking away from what we thought we wanted leads us exactly where we need to be. The contract may have been torn to pieces, but my sense of self-worth and integrity remained intact. And in the end, that's worth more than any relationship built on manipulation and control. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, so please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.